Hello, welcome to another weekly video. Today I'm going to be talking about divorce and how it can affect different families. I'm also going to try to talk a little bit about I guess how I feel like God views it just from my own perspective. But anyway, I was going to talk a little bit about my background and I guess what I experienced myself with divorce. Um, my parents were divorced. I have not been divorced, but so really all I can speak about is this perspective from a child. So I guess I'll kind of start with that. To be honest, the situation with my parents' divorce, um, didn't really affect me as much as other things have. Um, for example, like the abuse that I went through after the divorce, well, there was some before too. But the abuse I went through after the divorce actually highlights more in my mind. But I'll kind of try to speak a little bit about the divorce itself. I've mentioned a little bit in my previous videos that I was 8 years old and my father was on drugs and had been addicted for many years, and my mother was bipolar, and so she had actually, I think she had several mental illnesses, PTSD, bipolar, things like that, and they just had a very destructive relationship. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I could tell that they loved each other very much, but I mean, I think a lot of people will just say, well, love is not enough, and that's what it looked like to me. The love was just not enough. I remember many times, my dad would go to rehab and my mother would try to support us and when he wasn't in rehab and he was on drugs, he would pawn things in the house um and he would not be able to keep a job very long because he'd steal money from people and things like that. So my mother had to support us during that point too. And um looking back, it is surprising to me that she was able to do that with her mental condition, but um I guess she was able to hold some jobs at least a little bit longer than my dad. Um, anyway, they fought a lot. I remember just many fights at night, and then he would be he would disappear for days at a time. So um, the divorce didn't really come as a surprise to me. It's really the other things that happened while that was going on. So my parents were in a church and they knew another couple. Um, I've talked about it a little bit in my previous videos, but um, there was another couple at this church that we were all going to, my whole family. My sister and me and my dad and mother were in a church, and there was another couple there. Um, and they were older. Um, and um, they were all they all knew each other. They were in like Bible study groups together, and um, I remember we would go over to their house sometimes, this older couple, and I knew them on a first name basis. I remember even making phone calls to their house sometimes and asking if my dad was there when he would disappear and stuff like that. So like we were all very close. And I remember my dad. Well, this was more told to me. I don't really remember this happening, but my dad was away and he was in rehab and um my mother started having an affair with the older man in this couple that we knew. His wife actually got sick and passed away, so he was lonely and I think he was looking for attention and stuff like that too. So So they started having an affair, and I'm not going to go into all the details. This is just kind of a quick version, but they had an affair, and I think from what I heard, my mother felt bad about it and tried to go to my dad and tell him about it, and he came out of rehab, and I think they tried to make it work. She stopped having the affair with the older man. Excuse me, and so I guess that worked for a little while, but then my dad went out and used drugs, and that was kind of the last straw for my mom, and she ended up basically deciding to go be with this older man. I don't know when they decided to, um, I guess, get married, make things more permanent. I think they were just gonna be together, away from my dad initially, but they decided to get married about a month after, um, her and my dad split. My mom and my dad split. They My mother initiated the divorce and convinced him to convince my dad to get divorced. Um, but sorry, there's a lot of details to this. Um, all this happened very quickly. I think that's what I want to stress. That was why it was so difficult. It was um, I just remember like it felt like it was in the blink of an eye. We're going over to Ed's lake. Oh, sorry. My stepdad's name is Ed. We were going over to his lake house, um, and that's the older man I was referring to. We were going over to his lake house, and it didn't really seem like anything was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, we're going over there more often, and I found out later that my sister had caught them doing inappropriate things together, and then I just remember my sister coming to my room one day and saying, you know, Mom's gonna marry Ed, and it was just, um, it was really kind of stressful because like my mother never talked to me personally about it. But um, anyway, I'm not sure if I'm telling this story um well enough. There's just so many details, but um, the the basic thing I wanted to explain was how hard it was for everything to happen so fast, and then you know feeling like it really did feel like one day my dad was my dad, and then the next day Ed's coming in as a stepfather. And I mean, I have to be thankful that my mother wasn't real big on saying that, um, Ed, my new stepfather, was supposed to replace my father, but um, there was still a lot of like pressure to make him feel like he was a part of the family. Um, and unfortunately, it was really difficult for me because me and his personality clashed extremely, and um, of course, me and my dad, our personality did not clash. I am thankful for that much. My mother apparently didn't choose somebody real difficult to be a father to me in the beginning. But anyway, the most difficult thing I had a hard time with was just getting along with my stepdad with his personality. So I spent many years just hating him, and I just never wanted to speak to him. Um, I would make him feel pretty bad, I'm sure, just not wanting to be in the same room with him, not wanting to be in the same car with him. I would barely speak to him. So anyway, that was my biggest experience. It took me years to get past all that, and I do remember, feeling like my dad wasn't really there to defend me. My mother just had this way of always being against me, and when my dad left, it didn't feel like there was anybody on my side anymore. So the abuse increased. But um, anyway, um, I kind of just really wanted to talk more about like how I feel like God views divorce because I feel like so many people get confused about is it okay or not, you know. I mean, there's that statistic out there now that 50% of people are getting divorced. So, I mean, it feels like people do feel like or a lot of people, especially younger, feel like there's an attitude that it's okay. And I can't speak to whether it's okay. I mean, there's so many different situations out there. I don't feel like anybody should feel bad if they felt like that was their only choice. But I do see how um, if it's not something that you feel like is a good option, you're better not to take it. That doesn't mean that it is ever a good option, but I just don't know how to really speak too much about it because the different stories I've heard are so all over the place. Um, I remember hearing a story one time about a girl who said she had gotten divorced, but I have heard scenarios where um, there are situations where a person doesn't get divorced when they feel like they have to. So um, I think it just depends on the options that you have before you and how you were raised. Some people they don't feel like there's any other option and they're cornered, so they just do it. Um, but I look at my parents' situation and I understand why they did it, or I understand why my mother chose to. And then I think my father felt like that was the only choice he had. Most of the time when I see somebody get divorced, I notice that they feel like they don't know any other way and they don't know any other option. Which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, I mean, we all kind of do things that maybe go against God in ignorance. And I think there's something in the Bible about that. How um, a lot of a lot of the sin that occurs in the world is just from ignorance. So I feel like a lot of people today end up being divorced out of ignorance, but I'm not trying to judge or anything like that. I'm just trying to um, go by the things that I've seen myself. So I do see a lot of situations that make sense to me. Why there's divorce, especially if there's physical abuse and things like that. There's so many gray areas when it comes to that kind of thing. So um, I guess you just kind of have to talk to God yourself and figure it out. Um, you find your own way, and I don't think you should ever feel bad about it if that's what you had to do. Um, but I think we all have to look back and ask ourselves, with new knowledge, would we have made the same decision? I mean, um, if you get a divorce, maybe you regret it. So, um, I just think that's kind of how God views it. But I mean, He has so much grace for everybody. I don't think anything is viewed as wrong or right, and I never look at it that way either. You make the best decision you can in the moment. So, um, anyway, I didn't want to go too long with this, so I'm gonna leave it there. But I thank you for watching. Hope you have a good day.